Good evening, everybody. It is January 26th, 2026. That can only mean one thing, because it's 8 p.m. Eastern Time. It's Scouching Live. Welcome back. We're joined today for a lovely guest, Mr. Tony Ferrari. Tony, welcome back to the show. It's been a little while. Lovely to see you again. How have you been? How are things? What's going on? If we have any tech issues, I'd also like to hear about it from the chat. Please scream at us. But for now, go for it. How have you been? How's life? Have you dug yourself out of the abyss yet, or what?
Yeah, it's life's been okay. Life's been pretty good. Watching way too much hockey as always, digging myself out. Thankfully, we didn't get quite as much as you guys did in Toronto, down here in Windsor, but we still did get more than I would have liked. So
yeah, this
was a lot.
This whole global warming thing, it's starting to get a little bit. Yesterday, I kind of was sitting here going, man, I wish that would just speed right up, because this is outrageous. I mean, we pretty much had nonstop snow here, and I don't live in the city, and Toronto in the city was apparently a nightmare. But out here, I live a bit out of the city. It snowed pretty much nonstop for about a day and a bit, and that was deeply unpleasant. I shoveled my driveway. My neighbor doesn't live in his house very often, so I shoveled his driveway, and I shoveled the sidewalk because the plow wasn't coming yesterday. And by the time I went back into my house, I had to shovel again. So that's what we were dealing with up here. I'm glad that you're doing all right. The thumbnail came from Tony himself. That was your look coming in from shoveling. Or were you using a snowblower for that? Was that what you were up to?
Yeah, that time I was able to use my neighbor's snowblower, because just like you, my neighbor does not live at home 50% of the time or more. So
right.
they go, here, I have this massive driveway. It'd be nice if you could shovel it or like clear it so that people think we're home at least. You can use our snowblower, and that's a really nice thing to do. It speeds the process up, but it also shoots snow everywhere. And when it's windy as it was during that storm, it just shot back at me no matter what direction I shot it in. So it wasn't great, but I got those done. I went to my mother-in-law's house. I got her house done, because I'm certainly not going to make a 65-year-old woman get out there and shovel.
Yeah.
I think I've shoveled 9 times over the last day and a half because of all of it. So
what a guy.
It's been fun.
What a guy. Well, we're not here to talk about the snow unless people really want to. We'll see where we go from here with where the chat wants to take us. But we are, I guess you can say, like at the midpoint of this sort of cycle that we do to ourselves, that we put ourselves through. We'll start big picture, maybe zoom in. What's your feeling about this? I've seen a lot of people in the last few weeks since the World Junior throwing out a lot of takes about their feelings on this draft class, and there's a lot of rankings that have popped up recently, which I'm sure we can go through if you like. I'm sure yours have shifted quite a bit from when you put them out. From a grand scheme of things, big picture, where are you at? If someone were to ask you what this draft class is like in January 2026, what are you telling them? Because we're starting to see certain fan bases show up a little more often because they're starting to get that existential dread and sadness of a failed NHL season.
I really like this draft class. I genuinely do. I think some people have started to sour on it because at the end of the day, the shiny new toy that they came into the year hoping was going to be a generational star maybe isn't quite that, because if you watch players before their draft year a little bit, you kind of get a sense for what to expect. And we got that from Gavin McKenna. We've seen Ivar Stenberg for a couple of years. Tynan Lawrence tore it up in the USHL playoffs last year. We saw these guys come in, and maybe they weren't quite as shiny as we thought. Or maybe a guy like Stenberg, who isn't necessarily the flashiest, the most exhilarating player to watch at all times, is the guy that's leading the pack right now. And I think he's been at my number one all year, pretty much. Seeing everyone start to come around on that is pretty fun to watch. But I really like this class because you get beyond those guys, and yes, you're not getting Stenberg or Lawrence or McKenna at 15, 20, 30, but you're getting really good players, and I think some really interesting players. Like, I've seen Mathis Preston down into the 20s on a number of lists now. is that going to happen? Like, is he the guy that ends up being Cullen Potter that you and I and a few others have ranked pretty highly, and then he gets drafted at the end of the first round, or even on early day two? Like, if that happens, someone's getting a really, really good player who just generates tons of offensive chances, but maybe is a little snake bitten this year. Like, I think this year's draft class is going to be pretty fun.
I largely agree. I think the thing about this class is that there isn't, I don't think, a whole lot of guys who are going to rescue your franchise. Like, I think there's a lot of really intriguing players that can round out a lineup. You've got a lot of guys who can score, but might not bring that like 200-foot sort of work rate focused game. There's a lot of guys who have a lot of that workhorse game, but they may not have that projectable offense, but you want to have them out on the ice. There's a lot of these like just good, solid defensemen who, like there's just a lot of, and it's not like, I mean, there's a guy like Xavier Villeneuve who you can look at and go, well, there's something special about him, and there's that offensive ability and the skill and all that stuff that's like really unique and interesting. But you look at a lot of the other guys and it's like there are some that lean one direction or another, but they all kind of very subtly seem up the same alley as just like really rock solid players to have around. And I think a lot of people might expect, I want my late first round pick to be a huge swing, or I want my second round pick to be as good as my first or whatever. And there might be pockets this year where that's possible, but I think it's more about how much how quickly it kind of becomes very, very, very wide open. In terms of like, I mean, it seems like there's broadly a bit of a rough consensus on maybe who's going to be in that first 2025 group of the draft class. I personally see it as like opening up really quickly after that point based on a whole bunch of different criteria. But like, again, in those situations, are my expectations super, super high for the players likely to be available in that range? I'm not so sure. And I think that's fine. But I think it's just a matter of like setting your expectations properly, because it's a really interesting class. I see it a little bit similarly to like 2021, where we had a lot of different guys at the top that all sort of jostled for some sort of position. And some people saw things one way and other people legitimately saw things another way and all that stuff. And then at the end of the day, now 5 years later, you look at that draft class and you go, I mean, a lot of those guys have come along about at the same rate, right? Power, Edvinson, Beniers, Clark, Gunther, like all of those guys. Who would you want out of all of them? I don't know the answer to that. But at the end of the day, I think this year could be very similar. And I think there's a lot of guys that people are still really, really sleeping on. So I won't say exactly who I have in mind. And again, Tony and I talk as pals, as friends. But we generally, like, you disappear for a while because you have a real job and everything, and you've got like family and stuff. I just sit in my basement all day and grind away. So we don't interact on this very much. So I don't know what's going on in your brain. But is there anybody sort of floating around at the top that you still to this day are thinking like, I'm surprised more people haven't caught on to what this guy's bringing to the table?
Albert Smith is obviously the guy that everyone's starting to talk about now. So I'll go with a different defenseman, and that's Malte Gustafsson. I think he's been in or around my top 10 all season long. I got questions about it when I released my first rankings, and I think he was 10 or 11, and everyone kind of went, really him? Like, what is it about him? And I think he's got good size. He moves well. He moves the puck well. He doesn't try to do too much. And he just, to me, he's the kind of defenseman that a team drafts and goes, we're going to put him at the number 3 spot in our defensive men pecking order, and we're never going to have to worry about him again. And I don't know if there's necessarily an NHL comparable, but he can be a guy that can do a little bit of everything. And almost similarly to the way Matthias Ekholm could do a little bit of everything. He's a defensive guy. He's a stopper. He can move the puck capably. He's not necessarily your power play 1 guy or even your power play 2 guy if you have a couple good puck movers there, but he's a guy that you can rely on. And I think Malte Gustafsson does a lot of things really well. There are still some moments where I think you see some raw moments where he's a 17, 18-year-old defenseman and there are mistakes, but the package is there. And I think he's a guy that I just really, really like. If you want to go down the list a little bit more, I think for me, the one guy that's really intriguing to me right now is Casey Mutrin. I think this guy has all of the tools and none of the finish. I think there is a very raw player here that brings a physical game. He brings kind of a two-way game. I think he does some really solid work defensively. He powers over guys. I remember I was at the USA All-American game, and he didn't have a big offensive impact, but there was a few times in that game where he would carry the puck up the wing and just blow over a defenseman, and he has that ability. I want to see him refine things a little bit more. I think I've talked to you and others about how he reminds me of Matthew Nyes in his draft year, where the physical tools were kind of there, but he didn't really seem to have any idea of how to put it together. And I think if Casey Mutrin can kind of follow that same pathway, there could be a similar player there where, like you said, he's not the franchise saver. He's not the top line guy unless you're putting him with specific guys that he helps round out the line skill set. So those are just a couple of guys that stick out as guys I've really liked and I don't always hear a ton about.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, on those two, I would agree. I mean, I've had Mutrin high on my board all year long. Mm-hmm. Gustafsson, I've been up and down on, but holy, insert your favorite swear word after the word holy, and like that's how good he's been when I've seen him. Now that he's made the jump to the SHL and he's been there, I believe, full time for like a month or two, he's been unbelievable. I honestly, at the end of the day, he might be the guy that is my number one defenseman this year. Like I'm not there yet, really, and it would be tough to top guys like Verhoff and Reed and Villeneuve and all those guys. But boy, like it's one of those things where you kind of watch him and you don't have to think about it too much, but he's not one of those defensemen that kind of like disappears in a good way. You kind of just don't notice him and he just kind of eats some minutes. He's out there like making a difference for an SHL team as a 17-year-old. Like he is skating hard. He's skating well. He's closing gaps and managing them well. He's a great stick checker at that level already. I've seen him level a couple of guys at that level already as well, which I definitely don't remember seeing in the junior level. Like he seems to have hit another gear trying to keep a job with the big boy club. And I think they've noticed because there have been many games where they've played him a ton. He has been really something. And I watched a game of him on the same day I did games of like Smits and Chase Reed, and at that point he was a little lower down my board, and it was sort of a day where I kind of thought to myself, okay, I'm gonna put these guys on one day, I'm gonna see what I feel like afterwards. And Gustafsson at the very, very worst, in my opinion, after that day was like in that group, and I didn't know who I would want the most out of any of them. But now I keep thinking about it and I keep going back to Gustafsson. I keep going back to him because, like you said, he brings so much to the game that matters, and he does it in an impactful way. Like he isn't just sitting back and letting the game come to him and playing it super safe. He's not a super hyper aggressive offensive defenseman, but he just eats and eats and eats minutes and is impactful doing so. So it's really wild to see that out of the SHL. I can't remember the last time I saw an SHL defenseman at 17 years old play like that. Like I think back to the previous ones of like Simon Edvinsson, Axel Sandin Pellikka, although Sandin Pellikka mostly played at the junior level. I don't remember entirely right now.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to think of like who Gustafsson stacks up against as a Swedish defenseman as a 17-year-old in the last few years, and I have a hard time being really certain of who I would want ahead of him, at least as of today. I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on that? Sort of where he might fit in that like Swedish defenseman hierarchy that we've had in the last few years?
Like, I think the gold standard for the last decade or half decade has been Rasmus Alin in the way he was just dominant in Sweden during his draft year. And I don't know if he's that, because I think Dahlin's ability to control the play was so special. Yeah. And you're starting to see him become what he was in the NHL finally, now that Buffalo's turning things around over the last few years. But I think he's got to be in the tier after that, because I don't, like you said, there are guys that are really good defensive players, but they kind of disappear into the game. I think of Adam Gollier as a guy that I really like. Adam Gollier, he can be a really solid defensive presence. He plays a smart defensive game, but a lot of times it's him disappearing into the game, letting the game come to him and playing defense off of that. Like you said, Gustafsson is a guy that kind of brings something to the game where he is stepping into the play. He's making defensive plays. He's not allowing the game to come to him where he makes a play off of that. So it's really interesting to see how Gustafsson is adapted at the SHL level, because like you said, now that he's been there basically full time, I've seen a few games of him there, and he's doing the right thing most of the time. And like you said, he's added a physical element that wasn't necessarily there at the juniors. And I think at the junior level, like, you saw flashes of it, but a lot of times he just didn't need to. He was able to poke the puck off the guy's stick and take it and turn it up ice. So now he's playing against men. He's able to use that physical edge a little bit more effectively. And I think that's been a step in his game that I'm really liking to see. So I don't know if there's like a guy that I can think of over the last few years that has done as much in as many areas as him. Like, there are guys that have been really good offensively. I think of ASP in his draft plus 1 year, where he was fantastic offensively, but there were some real concerns defensively. Simon Edmondson was solid, but there was some big flaws in his game, especially decision-making wise. So I think the way Gustafsson's been able to adapt and just seamlessly do a little bit of everything, it's really, really impressive, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't put him in the Dahlin group, but I think back to like what I felt about Tom Willander or an Axel Sandin Pellikka or like Simon Edvinsson, and it's funny, like, I see a version of him that's almost like Simon Edvinsson was trying to be at the same age. Like, there's a lot of skill. I think Edvinson's a lot more like was at least offensive leaning and all that stuff. But in terms of like his overall, the size and the skating ability and the skill and the like, all this and this and this and like two-way sort of impact, it's all there. So yeah, he's a guy that I can easily see more and more people sort of getting on board with between now and the end of the season. You mentioned you were at the U.S. Top Prospects game. I didn't know that. I have not seen it yet, but spoil it for me. How was it? What was your experience? Did anything sort of stick out relative to your expectations? Go ahead. Go nuts.
It was a much more competitive game than I thought it would be. I think guys like Mutrin, like Haffley, even Victor Plante, the way they play just kind of leads to an intense style of play. So even though it was a bit of an all-star type event, you started to see these guys get into it. Like Mutrin got into it with a few of his NTDP teammates. The game ended in like basically a brawl. Like Mutrin and one of the NTDP defensemen, I can't remember who it was, were like fighting as the benches were kind of clearing and guys were like going over to their goalies. And then everyone's like, oh, like, we should probably go deal with this. And everyone was fighting on the ice, basically, like, not gloves off, but they were getting like face washes, pushing guys around, throwing guys to the ground. It was a fun way to end a pretty competitive game for the most part. One thing I really stood out to me was the lack of depth on the blue line in the States was really glaring. I don't know if there was really anyone that stood out, especially from the NTDP. The one guy that really stood out was Miles Brosnan, kid that plays prep hockey for Dexter, played a couple games early in the year at the Pittsburgh Showcase or whatever it was for Sioux Falls or Sioux City. He's going to be playing later in the season there, committed to Harvard. I've watched a couple of his games since then, and he's a very, very mobile defenseman. He controlled gaps well. I thought he was really fun to watch at that event because it was kind of a kid stepping into an event where everyone else was playing in the USHL and he was the one prep guy. And honestly, he was probably the best defenseman at that event. So he's a guy I've kind of added to my list, keeping an eye on. But as with older prep defensemen, it's kind of concerning of like, where is he exactly going to go developmentally? Like, he's a bit of a long-term project, I think. So it's going to be interesting to see how he goes. But yeah, it was a fun event. Like, Lyndon Haffley was really good at the event. He didn't score a ton. I think he had 1 point. Victor Plante, who, like, the game tape just came out. Go watch that. It was really, really fun to see, talk to him. He was fantastic at the event. Like, he was all over the ice. Logan Stewart was good. Jamie Garcia, who's a 2027 draft eligible, was maybe the best player on the ice. That kid was just unreal. the entire first period, I think he was on Team Blue. He was the only guy dictating any offense for that team. And at the end of the game, he was just dominant. Throughout the game, he was the best player, maybe the best player on either team. So watch out for him next year. But it was a fun event. Like I went in with pretty low expectations, as I kind of always do with these all-star type events. And it was in some intense hockey. Guys weren't really shying away from hitting their teammates or going after guys or anything like that. And guys like Mutrin, Halfley, and Plant kind of set the tone for that.
Just for the audience's sake, did you mean Jamie Glantz or AJ Garcia?
Yes.
Okay.
No,
I
Jamie
thought
Glantz,
so. Yeah, Jamie Glantz is quite a thing. He is quite a player. I actually saw a game of him today. No big deal. He's playing the Michigan State Spartans in that game, and didn't look too bad.
No, he's unreal.
Yeah, I mean, I do want to check that game out. It is always pretty informative, but that all your whole report resonates with where I'm at on a lot of those players, so that it makes me feel good. So I agree with it, right? That's the thing, right? Yeah. I mean, okay. So in terms of like, I'm wondering who since the last time we had you on the show, since the last time you've been here, who have been the guys that have like really rocketed up your list since then, if any? Like, has there been any player who you've seen that you've just the more and more you've seen, they've just kept marching, and by the end of the year they might be number one?
Number one might be a stretch, but I think the one guy that almost feels too obvious to bring up here is Oscar Hemming, a guy that wasn't playing any hockey anywhere. There was all this off-ice drama of where he was legally allowed to play with contracts and family disputes and all sorts of things. And since he's jumped into the college ranks, he's been really good, like better than I expected. I watched him at the Hlinka and I went, yeah, he's a solid player. He can finish and he plays with a bit of energy, but the way he's played in the NCAA has been really impressive. And I think I had him kind of at the very end of my list because I'm like, I don't know what to do with a player who literally has not played. And I wasn't like over the moon impressed with at the Hlinka when I did see him play. And even going back to last year, I was like, there are some good moments, but I don't love this player. So I can't really argue. Like, I saw people having him in the top 10 when he hadn't played games. And I'm like, I feel like you're being optimistic. And maybe not being so optimistic now. I think the top 10 might be a little rich, but I get it. He's certainly in my top 20 right now. He's a guy that I think plays with that physicality. He brings a little bit of an edge. Has a good shot. He's even making some plays as a passer now. And I think there's a really good player here. I want to see the rest of his season, obviously, because you get off to a hot start and could mean a lot for him. But yeah, this has been a good player so far.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, that's a guy who, I've watched 2 of the 6 games he's played this season, and he was excellent in both. That's one where I also kind of like, you run through the checklist of important things and you kind of go, boy, there's not much that he doesn't have going for him, right? Like, he's barely eligible for this year's draft. He might be the youngest player to play in the NCAA. I don't even know how long. Like, it might be ever, because he is a September 2008, and normally they're not graduating high school until June of this year. So somehow he managed to get approval or something to be basically, maybe he skipped a grade or something somewhere along the line, or I don't know how the education system works in Finland. Maybe there are Finnish people who can explain it to us. But by somehow he's playing in the NCAA and not looking too bad. But the size is a factor. The fact that he's a heck of a skater for a big guy like that. He's got a great shot on him. Like, there's a lot going for him that again, like, do I expect huge things out of his career? I don't know, but as a really good sort of complimentary big energy guy, like, I've seen him a lot so far. Well, not a lot, as much as I can. And I've seen like a guy like Ethan Belchetz a lot. Yeah. And if you had to pick between the two based on what you've seen, which way would you lean? Because I'm pretty sure I know where I would go.
It's tight because I think Belchetz is. I probably lean Hemming if I go today, based on what I've seen from him at the college ranks. But it is really tight because Belchetz does have the smarts. I think he's a little bit better of of a playmaker, facilitator, even though it's not necessarily a strength of his game. But despite what everyone thinks about Belchitz being this massive human being, Hemming probably brings a little bit more physicality and bite around the boards. I think Belchitz is more of he'll go into the corner and pull it out with skill, use his body to kind of frame up and kind of position himself well to pull a puck off the wall and move into space. But Hemming's more of the guy that'll go in there and crash and bang and pop the puck out. So I think I might go Hemming, but it's really tight between those two. I think that's a really interesting conversation for a couple of guys who I think people have a lot of faith in going forward, especially with Belchitz kind of he seems to be dropping now, but he was a guy that was in the top 5 quite a bit earlier in the year.
Yeah. I mean, is there, okay, so I guess that touches on an interesting subject. Is there a team, not a team, is there like a pair that you have that, let's say the consensus is really high on one, and you look at another really close on your list, if not ahead, and you go, when you really think about it, these guys are a lot more comparable than you might think, like a Belchitz and Hemming. Is there anyone that sticks out for you like that? Because I look up and down my list, and you know, like I'm looking up and down my list, and honestly, I've got quite a few down here, and it's just guys that when I watch them, I go, yep, that's a lot of fun right there. And then I watch someone close on that list who is also quite good, but it's that whole thing of like, if you pass on the guy everybody likes because you have him a little lower, and you can get a guy that you like more later on, and it's like, let's say he's 90% of the player, 85% of the player, but you get him a round later, then you haven't really lost all that much, and they might actually be quite comparable. Is there anybody that jumps out to you when you compare those two things that might look a little out of place, but when you think about it, there might be a little more there?
I wonder, these guys are both fairly high on most lists. One of them is not necessarily so high on my list, and they don't play similar games necessarily in terms of the way the public sees them. But Viggo Bjork and Caleb Malhotra are two centers that I think a lot of people have their opinions on. I think Malhotra's been up near the top of the boards recently, and people seem to love the guy. And I think it's a lot of, we want a guy that can be reliable, and we want a center, and there's not many centers in this draft class. I think when you watched Viggo Bjork at the World Juniors, you saw what he could do as a center, and you're seeing him play center a little bit more over in Sweden now. And I think we're seeing that despite the size difference and despite Bjork's kind of lack of physicality necessarily in terms of his stature, there is a center who can be just as effective in the 200-foot game and just as effective in the face-off dot, just as effective taking defensive draws, just as effective doing a lot of the things that you want from a center in terms of supporting teammates, in terms of going in and doing a job of making sure you're ending every shift on a positive note. And I think there's more offensive upside there with Viggo Bjork. So I think those two guys are really interesting to compare, because I don't think Caleb Malhotra is a bad player by any means, but he's down my board a bit. He's in the late teens, early 20s, and he's kind of been there all year. I think he's a very good center. I don't know if he has the upside though. With Viggo Bjork, like, I think you were posting in our group chat earlier about someone talked about so hard to trade a guy like Marco Rossi. The Minnesota Wild struggle with it so bad. Well, and then you mentioned that they traded him for Quinn Hughes in a package. So I think you look at Viggo Bjork, and maybe he's not Marco Rossi, but I think he can be a really solid center at the next level. I genuinely do. Like, he does everything you want. He's got good feet. He's really intelligent. He's got great hands. He understands how to get himself out of trouble as a passer or as a skater. I think there's a lot to like about Viggo Bjork, and he's going to be a guy that I think probably goes after Malhotra at the draft, despite, I think, probably having a bit of a higher upside and a pretty similar floor in reality.
And they're not that different in terms of size. Like, they're not that different. You know, Caleb Malhotra is not the biggest guy in the world, and the thing about Viggo Bjork is his brother is 6'2" or 6'3", and I believe his parents are quite tall. Like if he ends up 5'11", 6 feet tall, then who cares? There's no they need to get the bone growth charts out on him, like bring those in for the draft interviews. I wanted to throw one out too because this is actually kind of fun. But like I have two guys that I have ahead of someone else who I think is somewhat similar, but I like these guys a lot more, and that's Jack Hextall and Wyatt Cullen. I've got those two.
Wyatt Cullen.
I've got those two ahead of Elton Hermansen. Now,
okay,
I appreciate Elton Hermansen's game a lot. It's a ton of fun to watch. He is ridiculously skilled, and his hands are super quick, and very exciting player to watch. But in terms of every consistent shift and knowing what you're going to get out of him on a shift by shift and game by game basis, there are a lot of question marks. I find that he's a guy that turns it on and shuts it off at will, right? And there's a lot of upside in his game. But then I turn around and I look at guys that are ranked, second round maybe? I see Cullen in the first round a little more, but I look at those two guys and I go, they are just offensive wizard hockey players. Like these guys they may not have, I don't think, the skill level. I think Cullen is a very, 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 very skilled player in terms of, but he's not quite on that like elite level that maybe a Hermansen is, or a super high end level, but it's close. And I look at those two guys and how they make plays, how they see the ice. I mean, Jack Hextall, you want to talk about Caleb Malhotra. Like, I think Jack Hextall is a much better 200-foot center right now in terms of he's not physical, really. But if you're the opponent playing against a Jack Hextall, you better be goddamn sure you know what you're doing, because he reads people like a book. Like, it is hard. Like, one of the things I do, and feel free to shut me up, but like one of the things I do is I track like offensive zone turnovers generated, or cycles broken in the defensive zone, right? So just general off-puck involvement and results and turning play around and getting things moving the right way. And like to some extent, sometimes it might be based on luck, right? The opposing team might have some crazy cycle going and a puck just bounces off a skate and boom, someone comes back the other way, right? It's hockey, it's weird. But like with Hextall, there is just like way too much evidence that it's not luck, that he is such a good off-puck center and reads play so well that you watch him do what he does and you just go, he knew where that puck was going. He knew what that guy was going to do on the breakout. He can read that guy like a book, and you better be sure that the guy that has the puck on your team knows how to deceive a player like that, knows how to sort of play off of their read and be aware of what's going on there. Because, and I think that's an infinitely projectable trait. It's not like Hextall is a bad skater. I don't think that's the case at all. I've heard that said about him. I don't get that at all. He's skilled. Yeah. Like he does drive really good offensive results, even if he isn't scoring the lights out. I think too that one of the things this year that I'm starting to notice a lot more, or maybe not forget about, is just how intense the USHL can be. Like just how much more forechecking energy, and like how it's so clear to me watching it, and it's hard to explain without hours and hours and hours and hours of watching these leagues. And correct me if you feel differently, but like you watch the WHL, the OHL, the CHL in general, and it's fine. Like it's a good developmental system. It's good. It's not incredible, but it functions, and good players come out of it. But then you go to the USHL, and it's just you can tell how a really good player can be a point a game in the USHL and then go to the WHL and score 100 points in a season, right? Like you can kind of see how that pipeline operates, because the USHL has this extra layer of like physicality and energy and just pace of play, and it's way more sort of event heavy. And whereas I feel like the CHL is a little more like you can give the puck to one of your better players, they can do a lot with it individually, and you sort of can be a little more creative, improvisational, whatever. But I look at a guy like Hextall, and I just, every time I see him, I look for excuses to knock him down a peg. And he's just one of those guys where, and it's the same thing as Cullen. I look at those two guys and I go, a coach is going to love these guys. And if they put in the work and get any better from here, the way that they play the game and the way that they see the ice, it's only gonna like exponentially grow their output. And they're both quite young, especially Cullen. Like Cullen playing the way that he is, like for next year, if he were eligible for next year's draft, based on how much better he's got in my book since he started playing this year, he would probably be a very, very, very high draft pick in next year's draft with an extra year of runway to develop going into the draft, because the skill level, the quickness with how he thinks, his quickness on his edges, the sort of, again, the off-puck reads that he makes are pretty good, and I wouldn't say they're as good as Hextall, but those are two guys that I've noted a ton this year, and I've had Hextall high. Cullen is now extremely high relative to him, and I just look for excuses to knock those guys down, and I just can't find it. And it's pretty wild. Those are things that I did not expect coming into this season, knowing those players from last year.
No, it's funny that you bring up Wyatt Cullen, because he was one of the guys that really stood out at the All-American game as well. He was fantastic. I think he had 2 goals and 2 assists or something like that. He was all over the ice. I think he had 3 or 4 breakaways in the game. He was really, really good. And I went back and I'm like, I've seen him play and I've liked him. He's been kind of in my second round. But I need to see more after seeing him live like that. And then I went back and I watched a few games, and yeah, he ended up going into a tier that features Jack Hextall, Elton Hermanson, and now Will Cullen, among other players, though. So it's certainly an interesting group. That threesome really, like, I see where you're talking about with them having a bit of a similar game, but the strength, like it's almost like you create a player on a game and you just move the bars of the traits a little bit, and that's kind of those 3 players. And Hermanson, you move that skill bar all the way over, and then Hextall, you move that smarts bar all the way over, and Cullen, maybe you even things out a little bit and you bring up the intensity at times. Like that's kind of the way he plays, and I think it's a really interesting look at those 3 players. But Cullen was fantastic at the All-American game. I think he really caught my eye there, got himself into the first round on my board. But you talk about Hextall. You said everything you can, but it's certainly, he deserves it all, because he's a guy that I think elevates those around him with the way he plays the game. So you're seeing that in the USHL. And you mentioned the USHL and how intense it is. You and I have talked about this. I'm sure you've talked about it a million times on the podcast or on the show. I've written about it on the Hockey News. The CHL is 60 teams, and there are so many teams. The USHL is not close. It's a third of that. So when you're taking all of these athletes and you're focusing them into a third of a league, and the other reality with the USHL too is a lot of guys are leaving at 19. Mm-hmm. They're not staying till they're 20. They're leaving at 19 and going to college. I was able to talk to the USHL commissioner, Glenn Heffernan, at the All-American game. And one of the things he talked about was, yeah, we're a younger league than the CHL, but we play with more physicality. We play with more intensity. And at the end of the day, we're not diluting our talent. We don't have a guy that probably should be playing junior A hockey or playing in the U.S. equivalent, the NAL, and putting them in a second line role at the USHL level. You don't have that because you don't have 60 some odd teams across the country. Canada, there's a lot more players for sure. I don't know if there's 2/3 as much players anymore. It's just not that way. We haven't had that in years, it seems. And you're starting to see diluted talent in the CHL. And that allows, like you said, guys to freelance a bit. They're able to give the puck to the best player and let them run up the ice. I think a guy like Zane Perek was a great example of that. I think Perek's a great talent. He's fantastically skilled offensively, but in the CHL, you kind of just let him do his thing and vibe out, and he'd pick up 4 points on a night. Like that's kind of how it works. The USHL, a guy like Zane Perek, I'm not saying he wouldn't have success. I think he certainly would, but I think you'd see him get bullied a little bit more in his own zone. I think you'd see him get pushed around a little bit. He'd have a much harder time getting the puck out of his zone. And there were already some difficulties there, if we're being honest, in the CHL. And you saw his 9-game stint or whatever it was in the NHL before he got hurt, before he went to the World Juniors. And there was a reason he wasn't on the score sheet, because he is struggling to adapt to the speed, the pace, and the physicality. And one of the things the USHL commissioner talked about was not only are they developing players to play at the NHL level, they want their guys to play there, but they're developing guys that will never play at the NHL level, but will have very successful NCAA careers. And I think having that element as well, the CHL didn't really have that until now. Now they have guys going to the NCAA, but before that, now they're going to play for the University of Ottawa or the University of Windsor or University of BC, and they're playing good hockey in the CIS, but it's not quite what the NCAA is. So I think that's the difference, is you're getting guys to go to two different leagues. You have pipelines that go to the NCAA and then to the NHL, or just the NCAA, where guys spend 5 years and end up on a Quinnipiac team that is 26 on average age and just beating up on teams.
Yeah, it's not a bad way to make a living, I suppose. I do just want to highlight, based on this USHL conversation, some alumni going into this year's draft for the NHL draft who came out of the USHL from last year. See if you can just jog in your mind how many points these guys have scored. JP Hurlburt was in the USHL last year. Nikita Klepov, USHL. Yegor Shilov was in the USHL last year. Ilya Morozov, who is likely a first-round pick now, is off and doing pretty well in the NCAA. One of the guys I actually have liked recently that I haven't really noticed a whole lot, but also was a USHL defenseman last year, is Callum Croskery with the Sioux Greyhounds. That's a player I've noted quite a few times. Oliver Murnieks is on this list too, but I mean, he's not having the most incredible season, but you kind of get the point of, like, these guys were like half a point a game last year in the USHL-ish, like maybe pushing 3/4. Now some of them are on pace to have 100-point, maybe leading scoring style seasons in the CHL. It's pretty wild. And just watching a lot of CHL back-to-back with the USHL, it just becomes more and more apparent that, it becomes more apparent of, like, how an Adam Banach can go from being barely over a point a game in the USHL and a quote-unquote disappointment to scoring like 180 points in the OHL for the Brantford Bulldogs. And in my opinion, making Caleb Malhotra potentially a top 5 pick when they play together. Like, I don't think they played together as much recently, but I remember seeing those two together and they were cooking. Banach was the chef on that a lot of the time. And you can see why. But anyway, before we get into the chat questions, one more question that I wanted to ask you. I remember last year around this time, maybe-ish, you had a Matvei Novotny. Not Matvei, the USH, Novotny, Melvin Novotny. You had your Melvin Novotny top 25, top 20. As of January 2026, are there any obvious out of left field, I don't care what anybody thinks, but I'm going for it, guys, that you want to preach the gospel on a pedestal, or are you a normie now like everybody else?
I don't think I'm a lunatic like I was. You've talked about Wigo Sorensen a million times. I won't get into him. He's a guy that's just outside my first round. Adam Gollier is a guy that I don't see in the first round a lot. He's kind of just inside my first round. Adam Valentini, maybe a guy I still have a lot of faith in. Like, he's scoring at a really solid rate in the NCAA. He's a little bit undersized. I get why certain people don't necessarily love his game. He's a bit of a softer player, plays to the perimeter a bit. But the more I've watched him, the more you notice he gets to the inside. He does play in the middle of the ice. He has the skill level that you want to see. I just think sometimes he's not the biggest, he's not the fastest, he's not the strongest, and that does impact his game at times. I think, with that said, I think some of the central scouting rankings specifically are a bit harsh, because when you spur the Kitchener Rangers,
yes,
and leave for the NCAA after committing and being part of the organization for 2 whole months, you get soured on, and I get that. I understand the hurt feelings of grown men who preach about playing hard and not caring and just being a man and growling and whatever. But I think Adam Valentini is a guy that should be higher on boards than he is. With that said, I don't think there's a Melvin Novotny level. What the hell is Tony thinking? Right. Kind of going on this year.
All right. Good to know. I mean, I was hoping that you'd say the words Wigo Sorensen before the end of the show, so I'm glad that we knocked that off the bingo card. So that checks out. But the keen-eyed among viewers might notice that I now have Ludwig Soderberg in my first round. That might be my like. I mean, I've
Yeah.
got Verdi Svensk in there as well, but like you and I
Yeah.
are Svensk pilled. It's gone. It's did I tell you that one of the last games I saw of him, he was playing on the wing in Liga.
Oh hell yeah.
Yeah,
That's exactly what you should be doing with
yeah,
him.
exactly. You got him on the wing. It was really bizarre, but nobody else but Verti Svensk could be put in that position this year. But I mean, I don't know. I look at my list, and I mean, this is typical every year, but it's a riot compared to what the norm seems to be.
Oh,
And
compared to the norm, compared to consensus,
Oh, it's
like my
insane,
list
yeah.
is a mess. But that's because I think consensus is wrong.
Exactly. Yeah. We're not
No,
sheeple.
it's always funny when people talk about like, well, Central Scouting or so and so list or this big list has this person higher or lower than you, and it's like, yeah, well, like if I had the same list as them, it would make my life a lot easier because I can just copy their work. But when you're watching games, and the thing I've tried to teach myself for the last however many years now is when I'm seeing something repeatedly and I either like or dislike this player, and I keep seeing the things that concern me or excite me, just trust it, because more often than not, that's right. But a lot of times you have certain people that are somewhat bigger in this space who see a guy score 7 points in 2 games and they tweet about it and they go, so and so's back, baby. And you watch it and you're like, yeah, there were 4 points on the power play and an empty netter, and it was fine. Like they did exactly what I thought they would do, and they just got rewarded for it. So I just trust your gut more. I think that's the moral of that story.
Over time, you grow the gut, and then you learn to trust it more. There's just more of it to trust. The older and older you get, that's just the way she goes.
Yeah, you just oil it up and rub it. And
exactly. Yeah,
nurture it.
Oh, nice oily gut on a Monday night. All right. Well, I think on that note, we can switch over to chat questions and get off the nonsense here. And if not, if we catch up on chat questions, we will fill it in with whatever the gosh dang hell Tony wants to fill it in with. I don't like that I just said that. Someone asked if we're getting a Dr. Ho sponsorship, apparently. Look,
Ooh.
I would accept a Dr. Ho sponsorship in a millisecond. That guy has been a staple of my life, off and on, my entire life, I'm pretty sure, as far as I can remember. For anyone who doesn't know, and I don't know if Dr. Ho is a global phenomenon, for some reason I think he's only a Canadian phenomenon, but I feel like he's North American. But Dr. Ho is very famous for his many infomercials of products that he has made in a factory somewhere in Asia, for sure. That, you know, like a big one was like these pads that you put on your gut, and it like zaps you, and it's supposed to like zap away the fat. He has a lot of like supplements and stuff, just all over the place with his buffoonery. Unfortunately, I guess now that I've called him a buffoon, I'm not going to get a sponsorship. I've kind of burned that bridge literally within 30 seconds. But, I mean, look, maybe he's a huge hockey fan. Maybe he loves the show. I would do it. I would apologize on air for slandering, but nothing yet. No Dr. Ho yet. Still waiting on my DraftKings check to clear, and then we'll talk. I wish we don't have DraftKings on the show. Actually, I don't wish. Never mind. I'm going to keep moving on here. In honor of breaking the NCHC goals record by a defenseman, what do you think of Eric Polkamp? You go first, because I've been talking and yapping and making a fool of myself.
I have denied Eric Polkamp for years now. Convinced myself that I was right. And you know what? Maybe he's something. I think he's a guy that maybe ends up being a really good AHL guy. I don't know if the totality of his game, the skating, the defensive game, and everything that you need to be an NHLer is necessarily there. But like TJ Brennan had a sick career in the AHL at times. AHL all-star level. And maybe Polkamp's there, or maybe he's a guy that gets into the NHL and plays a solid role in the bottom of the defensive lineup. I don't know. I think he's a very interesting player to watch at the college level, and we'll see where it goes from there.
I mean, the guy can hammer a hockey puck.
Yeah.
That is his calling card. Is you set him up. He's Bryce Pickford, but I think he's a little bit more advanced. I mean, it makes sense because he's older, but in terms of like the talent floor, you know, the quickness, the skating ability, all those things, I think he's got a little more in the tank than a Bryce Pickford. But in terms of generally the output you're going to get with them on the ice, I think they're pretty comparable in terms of like, if you put them in the right scenario and you put together a roster around them that can make it make sense, yeah, like that's a really scary offensive presence to have on your team. But like every other player ever in the history of hockey, like it really comes down to who they're playing with and how much the coach can really trust them throwing them over the boards. I mean, unfortunately too, Polkamp has the disadvantage of looking quite small, and I know that I personally don't really care so much about that, but I feel like there are some people out there who will, you know, and it's like, oh, we already have an Eric Polkamp on the roster, so maybe we can't play him or whatever. I don't know. But at the end of the day, definitely having an insane season. I remember noting Polkamp when he was a draft eligible a bunch of times and just going, I just don't like, I don't know. But now I've kind of learned over time, it's like if you see a guy who gives you that feeling that I had watching an Eric Polkamp, you may as well at least keep an eye on him and track him over the years and just see where they go, because you never know. And guys, sometimes it just takes some time to offensively explode, and he certainly has done so. I think he's up to 16 goals this year or something. And we're still a few months away from the end of Denver's season. It's nuts. It's things are crazy out here. Who needs Zeev Buium anyway when you've got Eric Polkamp, right? Thoughts on Chase Reed's scoring? I mean, he's scoring a lot. Yeah, he's on pace for like a 70, 75 point season, which for a defenseman in the OHL is really good. I don't know. Like, what's your Coles notes on Chase Reed at this point in the year? I mean, I feel like mine haven't changed like all year long, but I'm curious of where you're at.
I think I like Chase Reed. I don't think I'm quite as bullish on him as some people. He's a guy that has been in my 8 to 12 range kind of all year. I think he has some really good offensive traits. I think he can pinch, he can get involved offensively. And when he does that, when he's confident in his game, you can really see the potential of a second power play guy, a guy that can be a solid puck mover in depth guy on the blue line. I don't know if he has the upside to be a power play one guy. I don't think he has quite has the skill, puck handling, and true dynamism that you need to be that guy. But he's a solid defenseman. I think he's in that group of really solid guys after the first maybe one or two guys. I think you mentioned earlier how you watched him and Gustafsson and Smits all back to back. And I think for me, there's Smits and Gustafsson, and then there's Reed. There's a gap between that group, I think, there for me personally. I think he's a good defenseman, though. I think his defensive game needs some work, but when you're 17, 18, like a lot of defensemen's defensive game needs work. Not everybody can be William Hawkinson or someone like that. So I think I don't know. I'm not. I push myself not to jump down the guy's throat, because I do think he can be an NHLer, and I think he has the qualities to be a solid like 3-4 defenseman. But the upside I've seen some people talk about, I think, is a bit hasty.
Yeah, I largely agree. Does Kasper Justavar Karlsson have the chance to be this year's LJ Mooney, a smallish guy that goes way later than he should? Sure. I mean, probably if anything, he'll go later than LJ Mooney because he's European. Yeah. I mean, I like him a little bit more than Mooney, but Mooney is definitely a wizard of a playmaker. I don't think I'd consider Justavar Karlsson that, but I don't know. Like, do you have anything to add or would like to add?
I think the difference with those two players specifically is with Mooney, I look at him and I go, that could be a very good top 6 player. With Justavar Karlsson, I go, that can be a very good player. Whether he's on your bottom, and it probably is going to be in your bottom 6. He's got the energy. He's a bit of a chainsaw on ice. Like, the guy's a lunatic. Despite his size, he really just doesn't play like he's 5'2" or whatever he is. So he's a fun player to watch. I think, yeah, he's going to get drafted really late. He's going to develop over the next couple of years. He's going to have an offensive explosion at some point, and everyone's going to go, oh my goodness, this kid. And they're going to go, remember that time at the World Juniors where he scored that big goal? And everyone's
shorthanded
go, oh, yeah.
goal.
Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah. Right? Like they're going to, and then he's going to get some hype, and then he maybe makes a bottom six, and he's this like rabid third line psychopath who plays bigger than he is, and LJ Mooney's on the second line somewhere, and it's going to be fun to watch them go head to head, because that battle in the corner would be quite fun to see.
Someone might die. There might be a problem down there. Crazy. The fact that you don't talk much during the year proves how strong the Scouching pilled mind virus is. I mean, I shouldn't say we don't talk, but we're not sharing each other's work and thoughts all day long every day, if that makes sense. You know?
Yeah, like we're not we're not like, hey, this is where my list is this week or anything like that. It's more like someone posts something about Ethan Belchitz and said he's the best player on earth.
Right.
And we're like, maybe not. And we share our thoughts on that specific player in that instance. But we're not like, I have him fourth and you have him 17th and you're an idiot and whatever, right?
Exactly. But the pills are strong, though, I'll tell you that. It seems like the pills are strong. What is one fun niche historical fact you know? Ooh, I got a good one right off the top of my head. For his time, it's going to do a lot of that sentence is going to do a lot of work, but for his time and in his area of the world at the time, Genghis Khan was actually a pretty serious feminist for a 13th century, 12th century Mongolian whatever pejorative that you want to use to describe those empires of those days. But Genghis Khan actually, as a child, his mother was kidnapped by warriors from a neighboring clan or whatever, and he never forgot that happened. That these guys came and stole his mom, and that was legal. In those days, if you could steal someone's property, which a wife at the time was, then you got to keep that property. You could do whatever you wanted with it. And so they treated wives like that. And when Genghis Khan grew up and became the guy that he became, one of the first things he did was completely and radically change the way that women were treated in society in Mongolia, and elevated them to, I believe, a certain level of equality to, definitely not, chattel, which is kind of what they were at the time. And so, and it was all because as a child, his mother got kidnapped and he grew up with this like resentment. I believe during his adolescence or young adulthood, he actually found out where his mom was and like slaughtered everybody who took her from him and rescued his mom. Like, it's like a movie out of, like, I'm amazed we don't have crazy epic Genghis Khan movies out there, because his story is ridiculous. But the fact that, like, you think of a guy like that in a certain light of like, he conquered half the world, and there's a story that he in Ukraine, or maybe it was him or his son, when they were conquering Ukraine, which is as far as they got in Europe, they put their yurt. It was really muddy, and they took a bunch of prisoners and like put them in the mud, and then put their yurt on top of them in the mud, and then partied all night, and then drowned all those people in the mud. So like not the most like pleasant group or civilization, but he, for the time in the area, the guy was a bit of a feminist, and like that's kind of cool, I think, and most people I don't think really know that, but interesting guy, interesting life, and interesting time in history. I don't know. Do you have anything, or do we just skip it and move on?
I will add on to that, actually, because if I'm not mistaken, he even had women in somewhat high levels within the military,
yes,
who allowed him to help spread their dominance, and the women were very, very impactful in that.
Right.
So, I Otherwise, I will just say that history repeats itself, and the world we live in is fun.
No kidding. Someone recommended maybe that the last person like a Gustafsson was Moritz Seider with Rogla. I honestly, like, based on what I remember of Seider with Rogla,
But that was in his draft plus
that
one
was
year.
a plus. I feel like Gustafsson might be there, be that type of a player, maybe.
Yeah.
But yeah, like that's kind of it. Like he's been sick. And was Seider a late birthday? No, he was a
No.
no. Okay, so yeah, it would be.
Uh,
But I don't even want to think about what Gustafsson's going to look like in a year. Like that could be
that's
really,
the thing, right?
really crazy. Yeah.
Like we've seen so much growth from him in terms of just like maturing into his body and becoming what he is at the SHL level from the start of the season to now. Like, where's he going to be a year from now when we're talking about comparing him to Moritz Seider in that Rogla year? So
Yeah.
it's going to be fun.
Based on the Tankathon draft and some big boards, Malte Gustafsson and Juho Piparinen could be available with the Sharks' 2 picks. Is it possible we get both? If not, which do you think is possible for the Sharks? I mean, they could get both, right? Like, I don't know. Why not? It would be really awesome if they did. I think those 2 players would be like no-brainer additions to what they've got. Like, I think that is kind of the weak point right now for San Jose is their defensive pipeline. Like, they've got Dickinson, and that's great. You know, it's a good start, but God, I have really loved those other 2 guys relative to Dickinson in Dickinson's draft year. Like, Piparinen doesn't have the flash, the razzle-dazzle, or anything, but it's similar to Gustafsson where you just sort of sit back and you go, well, he didn't screw that up. I couldn't note him for anything negative that shift. Couldn't note him for anything negative in that shift. Couldn't know, and it's just that over and over and over again at a men's level where you're kind of like, all right, maybe this guy knows just really how to play defense in this game, which is pretty good. That's pretty handy. But I mean, that's the thing. If we're talking guys like Gustafsson and Piparinen and you want a couple of defensemen in this year's draft, like even if it's only Gustafsson, whatever, you pick them with the earlier pick and you end up with an option of like a Håkansson or, maybe people start forgetting about a Ryan Lynn. You can buy low on a Ryan Lynn later on, or Adam Gollier, for example, or a Carroll's is probably going to be gone. But at the end of the day, like you'll have your choice of some good defensemen this year. Like I think just by default, there's just a lot of really good ones, especially if you go outside of North America. There's a lot of really interesting players this season, and so I don't know. Unless you want to add anything to that, like the Sharks, they could get both and it would be fun. And it's definitely, I think, a hole in their pipeline.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say is you could get both. It'd be awesome. Likely, I think at this point, you get Piparinen and then, like you said, a Ryan Lynn, and Adam Gollier, William Håkansson. And I think you're still coming away pretty happy with that. So I think when you're talking about Piparinen and Gustafsson, I think with Gustafsson, you're going, well, he didn't screw that up, and here's this positive thing that he did on this shift. And I think you're constantly doing that throughout a game. And with Piparinen, you said they're kind of the same thing. And I'm like, yeah, I think with Piparinen, it's you're not marking anything negative down, but there's oftentimes shifts where you're not necessarily marking anything super positive.
No,
you're just saying he did his job.
Yep.
And I think the Sharks kind of need that on the back end. They don't have many guys that do their jobs. So.
Not right now. Yeah. I mean, it is a bit of a gap. And I think that's definitely an area that I would, if those are the 2 guys that are there and you want them, like I've got both those guys really high. I've got Piparinen at 13 and Malte Gustafsson at 8. So like that would be fine by me. Those would be 2 really good pickups. TSN did a survey about who's the face of each NHL franchise in their history. Who would you say is the face of the Leafs in Montreal? Ooh. I mean, the only one for Montreal, Maurice Richard comes to mind.
Yeah, I was going to say you got to go Rocket.
You got to go Maurice Richard. That's just always the one that pops into my head. But there's like so many. For Toronto,
William Nylander.
Yeah, William
and
Nylander.
His middle finger.
Yeah, oh man, yeah. That should have been the thumbnail of the show. How have we not spoken about that mess? Oh my God, that's hilarious.
No, it really... when you look at when you talk about those 2 teams in particular, you're like, oh, Montreal, you go Rocket Richard, or oh, you go
Guy
Patrick,
Lafleur, Jacques
Guy
Plante,
Lafleur.
Patrick Waugh, you know.
You can get silly and say Guy Carbonneau.
Yeah, Guy Carbonneau, Howie Morenz.
Yeah, there's so many guys. And with the Leafs, you're like, is it Sundin or is it Matthews? Or do we go Dave Keon?
Honestly,
I mean,
okay.
It's just not the same.
It might be a little off the beaten path, but this is me, and it might be sentimental for me because my aunt, who got me really into hockey as a kid, is like in love with this man. But Doug Gilmour, like I feel like Doug Gilmour he was only with Toronto for a handful of seasons, right? It wasn't super long, but his impact in Toronto is near limitless. So maybe him, maybe like because like a lot of guys don't really have that like public face anymore, right? Like you don't see Daryl Sittler talked about a whole lot, but you always are hearing about Guy Lafleur and Maurice Richard, and they're constantly in the zeitgeist. So I don't know. The one that always is sticking out in my head now is Richard and Doug Gilmour. I don't know why Gilmour, but. Well, I actually kind of do, but that's one that I think that you could make an argument for.
Yeah, I think with Gilmour, like Richard, I think is the guy from Montreal. There's so many great players there that you could talk about. Juraj Slafkovsky, for example. But with Toronto, Gilmour is right up there in terms of the player that seems to be at the heart of everyone's fandom, especially of a certain generation. If you grew up in the 90s or even early 2000s, like in the early 2000s, they had those great Sundin, McGillney, those teams, and everyone was still like, but they're not Doug Gilmour.
Right.
And you still had that. Or you could go with Sundin, who was kind of the guy in Toronto for the longest time. Yeah, like it was Matt Sundin and his merry men, and he got them in the playoffs. He got them on some deep runs in those early 2000s years. But you ideally, you would look at the current generation of Leafs, and they would have had more success, and you could go Austin Matthews or even Mitch Marner if he was still there. Like if they'd won a cup, maybe it's different. But for now, you kind of do have to lean on the past and say like Gilmour, maybe a Sundin. I mean, even Wendell Clark's probably in that conversation.
Yeah, at this rate, I'm not so sure how many of this generation of Toronto Maple Leafs are going to be in Legends Row in 20 years, but we'll just have to wait and see. How do you see?
It'll just be Willie leaning over the board.
Just William Nylander, with his finger out. You and I would do that if we were president of MLSE, which is why we're not president of MLSE.
There's very good reasons for
yes,
that.
very good reasons. All right, how do you see Verhoff versus Reed? That is a very good question. I don't know if you want to take this first or what.
I will say that I will quickly sum up what I see, and then I will let you take it away for your long spiel as you always do. I think Verhoff is a much more well-rounded player and a more refined offensive player that will translate to the NHL a little bit more seamlessly. I think Reed could be a player that has as much offensive upside, but I do have concerns about the rest of his game. So I think for me, it's pretty easily Verhoff ahead. But there is that chance where Verhoff's a 35-point guy and maybe Reed's a guy that ends up being 45 points. So depending on what you want, that's kind of the way I see it.
I largely come down on the same there. Like I've got them a tier apart, but I could very easily see a world where Chase Reed is about equivalent value to a Verhoff at the end of the day. I think with Verhoff's advantages, he's younger by quite a margin, playing in a much tougher level of hockey.
Much tougher.
I think with Verhoff, there's also been a lot of really positive growth in his game. Like handling opposing forechecks was a really big struggle for him at the Linka. And just sort of reliably moving the puck out of his own end has been a big issue. And for Chase Reed, that's not necessarily true at all. I think that's one of his biggest strengths. Like in terms of commanding possession of the puck up the ice and running transitions and getting involved in the offensive zone, I think Reed has him beat all around there, but some of the stuff that Verhoff thinks in the offensive zone, some of the playmaking, obviously he's got his shot, but like there have been some moments watching him where he looks like he's winding up for a shot, and then in an instant he like completely changes his mind and flips the puck through a wide open seam that has been created that I didn't see. And he flings it to someone far side for a one-timer, right? Like, he has this vision that I think, like, I guess I can put it this way and then we'll move on. But like, there's a level of like almost like comfort in Verhoff's game. Like, he has a level of, I hate that I use this word, but he has this level of poise where everything seems to be in control and everything seems to be planned and like with purpose. Whereas Chase Reed feels a lot more like, I'm going to take the puck and do stuff. Like, it's very much more sort of like vibes hockey and sort of very, I'm going to drive play this way. And that's where I think you might see a gap bridged between the two over time. Like, cause a guy like Reed can maybe do that in the NHL. Do I believe that that's likely as he is now? I think he's a ways away, but with Verhoff, I think he could be a guy that, like, would I draft him first overall this year? I don't think so. But in terms of all around rock solid impact, potentially even at both ends of the ice, I think Verhoff brings a lot to the game, but he's not going to be rushing the puck up the ice like Chase Reed does, I don't think, but who cares at the end of the day if Chase Reed takes the puck end to end and, shoots from the goal line and puts the puck in the net, or Keaton Verhoff gets the puck passed to him in the offensive zone and he sends some brilliant backdoor pass across the slot and gets a goal. Like, who cares? What's the difference? It's just two different ways to cut the same fruit, right? Like, it's whatever. So I think they're comparable, but I see a lot of potential in the NHL for Verhoff, and I think there's a lot more maybe adjustment for a guy like Reed once he gets there. That's kind of where I come down. Do either of you worry that Smits's offense won't translate to the next level? And if so, does it really matter given how strong he is defensively? I mean, if he can learn how to protect the puck against NHL level defending, then it's going to be fine. Like, I've seen him get his legs nice and wide and protect the puck and have that, stable base of skating and working the puck down low and along the boards and protecting the puck well. But if he can do that in the NHL, I think he'll be just fine. A coach could maybe get in the way, but I look at a Smits and I keep seeing a guy like a Brent Burns out there. I that's all I see every time I watch him is just this wild cowboy, kind of one of a kind. You can't have a bunch of them on your team, but you can kind of use them more than I think people think that you can. And not just a puck carrier, like a good passer and an aggressive offensive zone player. I don't know. Like, I'm not super worried about it, but I do think it might take some time. I don't know. How do you feel about that? Oh, are you muted?
I was. I think there's a bit of what we saw from Artyom Levchinov in his draft year.
Yes.
Where he's just kind of out there running and gunning at times offensively. And that part does have to kind of refine itself, and he does have to figure out what works and what doesn't. But he does have so many other strengths in this game that I think he will give himself time to adjust to that. And I think that's the nice thing is when a coach sends him out there and he makes a mistake offensively or makes a mistake by pinching in too deep or joining a rush when he shouldn't, he has the skating to kind of get back into place and be a good supportive defender and get himself back into the play. But two, he's also going to provide a lot on that end of the ice where he does make up for those mistakes. So, there's going to be some adjustment, but he's also the kind of player that you take a chance on and you go, maybe he adjusts really, really well and he becomes one of these top end guys. Like I've talked about it a million times, but so many times at the NHL draft, teams go and draft Griffin Reinhart or Ryan Murphy and they go, or Eric Branson and they go, this is going to be our stud. And like, they're just not that. And then you see the defensemen that are drafted after them, and oftentimes they fall because there's risks in their game and there's worry about whether their offense is going to translate or whatever it may be. And you look around the league, and those are the top defensemen in the league. Like Cale Makar, Quinn Hughes, those guys are drafted fairly high. Like they're not drafted at the end of the first round by any means, but they're drafted not in the top 3 picks because people go, I don't know if everything's going to translate so well. Well, now they're the two best defensemen in the world, arguably. So take some chances on guys that can move, can create, can do things that other players couldn't even dream of. And I think that's why you take a chance on a guy like Albert Smith, because his baseline is really, really solid. Now take the chance on the special that he could be.
I would agree. Is Canada washed? Well, I'll tell you this.
Yep.
If after all of this snow melts, assuming that it does, and Canada is still not washed after all this snow melts, then there's a big problem in this country. There's a really big problem because we'd be dirty as hell because there's a lot of snow out there. I think I got like a foot, maybe a foot and a bit. So not too bad, nice little dump. But not right now. Canada's not washed, but the snow when it melts probably should. I also, on this note as well, I also got on the phone with my best friend Mark Carney. I told him I was worried. I was like, "Oh, is Canada washed? Like I'm an NHL draft guy, and I watch so much CHL, and I end up liking guys from outside the CHL more. Is Canada washed?" And he goes, "Don't worry, bro, I got you." Gets on a plane, goes to Davos, and gives that speech that he gave over there, which every Canadian should probably listen to. And I went, you know what? Maybe we're not so washed after all. This guy is my best friend for a reason. So maybe not. We might be okay up here in Canada. The snow can take a hike, I think. I don't know. Are you a believer that Canada is washed, or are we the greatest country in the world now?
I think as a country, we are still quite a fantastic country. At the World Juniors, we are washed.
Yeah, it's possible.
But no, I think you have your ties to Mark Carney. I have family that has ties to Mark Carney. Yeah, I think Canada's doing okay.
Yeah, we're doing.
I don't think it's the downfall of the Canadian world system that so many people are trying to put out there. Yeah.
Whatever we do up here, I don't even know. Have you gotten around to William Surbrand? Yeah, I did actually, believe it or not. Someone gave me a name to watch, and I actually watched it between the last show and this one. I don't know if you've seen much of Surbrand. He's like a 17-year-old that's also playing in the SHL now for Timrå. I don't know. I mean, he's a big center. They've got him playing the wing down there. He just seemed like a really straightforward meat and potatoes center to me, like decently physical, not a bad skater really. Like he goes to the net, like kept his game super, super, super simple. I watched a bit of him at the junior level where he has a bunch of goals. Like he's a real meat and potatoes hockey player to me. I don't see sure I could see him getting drafted. I don't see why not. He's big. He's a center. He seems to have nothing really wrong in his game. Maybe a guy that I swing back on and maybe ends up on the watch list or at the tail end of my list because I did kind of not mind it. But I didn't pencil him onto my list when I was watching him, which is usually what I do with guys that I really enjoy, that I get sourced from the audience, from my beloved audience. I don't know. I'm assuming you haven't seen this player or heard of his name.
No, I've heard of his name. I just went to his link on Elite Prospects, and it was purple. So
okay,
I've looked him up at least.
Got it. Yeah,
I have nothing to say.
He's purpled. Got it. There we go. All right. It's a good thing when the player's already purpled when you look him up. That's a good thing. Håkansson's really struggling in the Allsvenskan. Have you had able to have any viewings? I mean, I saw one of the games. I wouldn't consider it struggling. I think he just looked fine. The other thing you have to keep in mind, too, is like he's jumping to a brand new team, and I think he's got like 80 penalty minutes in the 4 games that he's played. I don't know how that's even possible, but he has got a lot of time in the box, which is very strange. Let me just look it up. I haven't seen exactly why that is, but I don't know. Look, I think the thing is, just because a guy changes teams halfway through the season, and it might not look awesome right away. Like I don't know, like it's a completely different life that you're living. I think it can take time, and I think that's okay. Okay, 27 penalty minutes through 4 games. So he got a misconduct in 1 game the other day, but I don't know. I mean, I have no reason to look at a William Håkansson all of a sudden and be like, well, I don't know. Because every single time I've seen him this year, again, it's like I can't pick apart his game very much. I don't think he's a very exciting player to say. I don't think that's what he is. but he's really, really good at it. Like, he's really good at not being very exciting, and brings a really good, solid defensive game to the table that I think projects really, really well considering his size, his skating ability, all kinds of stuff. So yeah, he's really high on my list still. I've only seen one of the games that he's played with Almtuna, but I wouldn't say I'm super concerned. Have you seen much of him with that team? I didn't even notice he was moved until like a week ago.
Yeah, I think I've seen one game at the Allsvenskan level, and I thought he was fine. Like, I'm not too worried about him. He's a guy that I've liked all year long, and we're now at a point where if you see one bad game, you're not, especially of a player that you've either liked or you see one great game from a player you don't like, you don't make a brash move and like drop him out of your first round or something. So for me, I think William Hawkinson's still a first round pick. He's a guy that I would certainly look at in the mid to late first round, and I'm not jumping down his throat for a couple of bad games at the Allsvenskan level when he's barely played because he's constantly being a goon.
yeah. I guess, yeah. But that's a good thing. Everybody loves a good goon these days, right?
If anything, it boosts his draft stock with NHL teams.
Exactly. Look at all these Pims, dog. Could Gollier push for a late first round pick? I think so. I mean, it's possible. Yeah. Again, right-hand shot. He's big. He's been playing against men. Was at the World Juniors. I didn't think he was particularly good at the World Juniors personally. They didn't play him a ton, I don't think, there either. But at the end of the day, I don't think I would do it. Maybe if you asked me in November, I might have said yes, but probably not. I like him though. Second round pick, second, third guy I'm drafting. I feel pretty good about that. I don't know. What do you feel about Mr. Golger?
Yeah, he's a guy that's at the end of my first round, but the reality of things in talking to NHL teams, when they're at the end of your first round, that means they're probably second or third round picks, because other teams have a very different first round than you, and there's going to be 15, 20 guys that you don't have in the first round that get drafted ahead of the players you have at the end of your first round. So I think, yeah, you could squeak into a first round. So all it takes is one team to be like, that's our guy, and he's a Colorado Avalanche or something.
Right. So. Right. So yeah, no, I agree. Have you seen any Milan Sundstrom since he was bumped up to U20? Not U20. I did see a bit of him at U18 earlier this year and went, yeah, this guy's real good. So and then I saw him at the U17s, and I again went into my little red notebook here and went, he's good. So I don't know, but any Sundstrom takes a year and a half before he's draft eligible or no?
No.
All right.
I've got nothing.
Yeah, fair enough. This person wants to hear Tony talk about Gollier and Hokinson more, but no, we're not going to make you do that, Tony. What's been the concern? Okay. What's been the concern with Novotny? I don't know what concern. I don't know.
I don't see a concern with him. I think he's been a really good player. I think he's improved as the years went on even. So
I'm surprised he went to the USHL. Yeah, that seems interesting. But I didn't even look at, like, is he scoring points? Does he have the points this year? Is he pointing? I would use Elite Prospects to look it up, but the ads crash my computer. Yeah. There we go. Yeah, he's over a point a game. Good for him. Good for him. Way to go, Melvin. Is he the greatest hockey player ever named Melvin, do you think?
You know what? I'm going to do some homework and get back to you next time I'm on the show.
I'm going to just Google. I'm just searching on Elite Prospects. Everybody named Melvin that has ever played hockey, and we'll go by page views here. Melvin Fernstrom. That's one.
Oh yeah.
I might go. I might want Novotny ahead of him though. Honestly, I don't know. Yeah, no, we're not looking at. There's not too many Melvins that have played in the NHL. There was a Mel Angelstad. Why do I know that name? I feel like that name was like in an NHL video game from when I was like 10. And one of those ones you scroll past. Anyway, we're not here to do this. Where were we here? Best sports movie of all time?
I remember the Titans.
Oh, deep cut. Okay. Oh man. Okay. This is gonna.
Cool Runnings.
Cool Runnings is a good one. That movie is awesome. But I'm gonna throw a curveball here because I was gonna say something lame like Moneyball. I do love Moneyball, but it's too on brand. It's too on topic. It's too vanilla. I'm gonna throw Challengers out there. Do you see you seen Challengers?
Big big polygamy guy.
Dude, Challengers rocked. I did not know what I was getting into watching that movie, and I'm glad I didn't know what I was getting into. I loved that movie. I know some people did not, and some people found it very bizarre, but I thought it was really, really good. And I'm thinking about other sports movies that I can even think what's the love of the, was it The Love of the Game, the one with Tom Hanks and Madonna? That one's good.
I want to bring up a more recent one that I'm not. It's a sports movie, but doesn't necessarily the sports movie. Marty Supreme.
I have not seen it yet. I want to see it.
Just take an Adderall and have a time.
Okay, so Uncut Gems guy does it again then, right?
Yeah. It's very bring pre-workout to the movie theater.
Okay.
And just get jacked
Sick.
while you
All right.
watch that. That's a fun. I don't know if it's the best of all time, but it certainly had a good time.
Yeah. I don't know. Wow. Yeah, no. Right now, as of today, it might be Challengers. That movie was the soundtrack. I think it was Trent Reznor did that soundtrack. Was it? I think. And it's just crazy. It's that movie rocks. It puts a smile on my face thinking about that movie. I love it. Who would win in a hockey fight between Genghis Khan and Attila the Hun?
So with this, I saw this question. I Googled some stuff about these two.
God. Okay.
To put the tail of the tape together for these two.
Yes.
So Attila the Hun was estimated to be around 5'3" to 5'6". And on the other side, you have Genghis Khan, who is in NHL terms quite small at 5'6" to 5'9". So you have a guy that is significantly taller. But Attila the Hun was noted to be more physically in shape and more broad and strong. So I think by that,
got the Tai Domi build.
He's got the Tai Domi build. And if I can quote my grade 4 speech from grade school when we all had to do speeches, because that was the thing in Ontario.
Yep.
Tai Domi often started his fights looking up and ended them looking down. So Attila the Hun's your winner here.
Bars from Tony Ferrari, little 9-year-old Tony. Way to go. Wish I could have been there. That would have been great. Tavares could get a statue? Yeah, no, I don't think Tavares is getting a statue in Toronto. I doubt it. How would you rate Verhoff's skating? Getting better, I would say. I think Verhoff's footwork is very fluid. He covers ice very efficiently. Like, he's rarely sort of caught out of position, I think. Every so often you kind of see it, but he's not the most explosive guy, I would say. Like, he's more of a pass first, very pass heavy type of player, because the feet aren't necessarily like remarkably quick. But with the flow of the game back and forth, like, he skates well for a defenseman like that. He covers ice really well. Like, I don't have too many concerns about it. And it's one of those things where it's like, it'll improve. It's more about the way he applies it right now. And by and large, I think he does more than fine with it. I don't know.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think he's a very good skater, but doesn't really have that elite dynamism that you see from a Quinn Hughes or a Cale Makar. In various different ways. Quinn Hughes is that like shifty, like ultimate edge work ability to kind of pull away because he's able to put you on, no pun intended, put you on skates and let you skate off to the other way while he turns around and goes one way. Mm-hmm. Whereas Cale Makar is that explosive burst of speed kind of skater. And Verhoff doesn't have either of those things necessarily, but he's very fluid. Like you said, he gets around perfectly fine. And I certainly, I've seen some people talk about how it's a weakness. I don't see it as a weakness at all. Yeah,
no, I don't either. Verhoff has some good offensive instincts, but despite not having the elusiveness of Reed, yeah, I agree with that. Tony's here to tell me my whole culture is a joke and I should be ashamed to be Quebecois. Okay, are you going to do that tonight, or are we gonna piss off 11 million, 12 million Canadians? our beloved French brothers and sisters and everything in between?
No, I think it's a good year for the Quebec League.
All right.
I think it's fun.
It is fun.
I'm not gonna jump on any Quebecois today. No. Good people.
for now in your books.
For now. Wait till next year when I jump on your face.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Wait to tell us Alexis Joseph is a 3rd round pick or something.
If that.
Maybe. Preston showing up in Fronman's list as 31st definitely feels like a contender for second rounder for Carolina, but I see the criticisms of my home team yet again going for a Smurfy right winger. Nadeau, Blake, Stankoven, Jarvis. Is Preston just more of the same? I mean, kinda, but like, so what? You know,
I was gonna say that's a sick list.
Yeah, like so what? You know, like I don't know. That's all I got.
Oh no, we're too fun. We're too good.
Oh no,
we get the puck around the ice really easily. Oh no.
Gosh, if only, God, if only we had the same position but bigger. Oh darn.
If only we didn't shoot the puck from low danger areas consistently.
Yes. They still do that? Is Carolina still doing that? Is that their strategy?
Yeah, they're still
wow, that's wild.
I think they've gotten better over the last 2 years specifically, but yeah, they're still like bombing shots from above the dots.
Yeah. All right, well that checks out. Let me just make sure something works here. Okay. All right. Yeah. I like Smits a lot, but I'm concerned with his puck moving ability. I don't think he sees the ice very well. I think that to a certain extent you're right. Like I don't know if it's so concerning that I don't think he works out. I do think that like he has had some really, really strong moments in the games I've seen where he's under pressure or running a breakout and he just finds an outlet pass or some sort of small to mid-range sort of pass that you don't really expect, and he keeps things super, super safe and super, super simple. I mean, there's nothing really in my data that like really scares me with regards to projection or what his potential might look like. Let me see here. I don't think Tony will die if I do this, but if he does, we'll bring him back shortly. Don't worry, because I'm gonna share my where the hell did I put I have too many scenes in my OBS now. It's kind of ridiculous. Oh, there it is. Okay, yeah, Tony shouldn't be dead, but maybe he is. But yeah, so I updated this for all of you tonight just to make it big and visible. But there's nothing really in here that's like super, super, super concerning. The only thing I will note is that the DTS percentage, which is defensive transition percentage, it's the conditional formatting is backwards. I'm just noticing that now. So his is actually really, really good. But by and large, like there's not too much that you can be too picky about. Like very, very, very strong offensive presence who, I mean, half of the shots he takes are from scoring areas, which for a defenseman is dumb as hell. But at the end of the day, I mean, I don't know. I don't see a ton of things to legitimately be concerned about, but I will say, like, there is a certain part of me that kind of gets a little bit spooked about projecting him. But for me, it's more like, do you want to be on his side from the get-go, or do you want to be a doubter? And I could see why you would go either direction, but I would rather be on his side. Like, I'd rather bet on a guy like that and work with him, and especially, like, the attitude that he's shown on, like, just as a person on camera and everything. Like, I love it. Everything about him is just so interesting. And guys, defensemen that play like him don't grow on trees, Tony. They don't grow on trees. They don't grow on trees, guys like him, you know? Oh, God.
How many players could you say that about over the last 3 to 5 years? Tell us, Will.
It's actually, dude. Okay, so I got to tell you then, because I don't think if there are people in the audience of the show or watchers or listeners who don't follow me on Twitter, I get why. I'm not very active over there, but I couldn't help myself the other day. I saw a tweet from Cam Robinson, and this has nothing to do with Cam. Cam's fine, but he tweeted a quote from an NHL scout that was about Keaton Verhoff, and it was like that a defenseman like Keaton Verhoff doesn't grow on trees. So I Googled. Literally, it took me 2 minutes, but I Googled, in quotes, NHL Draft doesn't grow on trees, and I'll pull up the list because there was definitely more than this. And I will also say that some of them are from much more reputable sources than others, but it's still nonetheless very, very funny. But these are the list. This is a list of people, a short list of people who people have said, both scouts, media, people, whoever, they don't grow on trees. Porter Martone, Blake Fiddler, Vincent Trocheck, Jacob Wozniak, Jackson Smith, Mason West, scoring forwards in general, Owen Power, Charlie Ellick, Philip Broberg, Shane Wright in 2026, Victor Soderstrom, Vince Dunn, Arbor Xhekaj, Bodie Wild, that's a good one, Rasmus Sandin, Dougie Hamilton, the list goes on and on and on. So there seem to be a lot of trees out there that are growing guys like this, it seems, because a lot of those guys are good NHLers, but like Connor McDavid's don't grow on trees. I think that's my standard for they don't grow on trees. Brent Burns, they don't grow on trees, right? Lane Hudson's, they don't grow on trees. So in any case, it's the background of that. I'm very proud of that one for some reason. I don't know. Not much to be proud of, I guess. Yeah, played 9 minutes today. Coach couldn't trust him a few turnovers. Oh, okay. That's too bad. I don't know. For Hawkinson, like, if that's the case, then I guess he's terrible. My non-Carolina question, is Rogowski the Letourneau of the draft? Are you in the Discord server, sir? Because I wrote that in the server today for my daily report that I put in there. If you want to see my notes on the day, then that's where they end up. But I was watching Rogowski today, and like, I kind of agree. Like, he is humongous. He's a pretty decent skater for being so humongous. And he's a hell of a shooter. And I can put myself in the shoes of myself and probably Tony as well a year ago talking about Dean Letourneau during those 2 games that he played in the USHL, where it's like, he's certainly very big. He can certainly really shoot the puck. He is very, very, very unrefined and not there yet. And I don't know why he's going to college next year. I believe that was our hypothesis on him, and so far so good on that, even though he's having a good year. And I think with Rogowski, I think there are parallels to that. Just handling the puck and being a reliable auxiliary puck handler and everything. Like, it just was really not, it was really not that great. But then he would sort of drop a shoulder and jump into the rush and all this stuff. And you're kind of looking at this big boy and you're going, all right, like, yeah, I mean, if he can really improve from here, like, I could definitely see something for that. So yeah, I mean, I see where you're coming from. Would I draft Rogowski in the first round? I don't think so. I wouldn't have drafted Letourneau in the first round, right? But I think Rogowski's in my late second, early third now. Like, there's something there. But yeah, I don't know. Have you seen much of Rogowski this year or no?
I've seen quite a bit of Rogowski this year. He's a guy that I think is a perfectly fine junior player, and if he were to stick in junior hockey for the next couple of years, I could see him being a pretty highly productive player in his age 19-20 season. With that said, I talked earlier about how a player at my 27-28 is technically in my first round, but the reality is they're more likely second or third round players, because guys that I would not draft in the first round or draft ahead of these other players are going to go ahead of players because I don't have the same expectations as Will. I don't have the same list as Team X or Team Y. So their lists are going to be different, and they're going to draft guys I would never even touch in the first round, pushing the guys that I have in the first round down to the second, third, fourth, fifth even.
Yeah. No,
Rogowski's one of those guys that are probably going to get drafted
ahead
of where I would draft them.
He's going to go like 18 or 20 or something, and we're going to go but for all we know, he could be the next number 1 center for the, Pittsburgh Penguins, and we'll all go, wow. I guess the big
pipeline from Lemieux to Crosby to Rogowski is going to be unreal.
It's impossible to ignore. Which is a bigger choke job, the 3-1 Leafs lead versus the Habs in 2021, or Globo Jim blowing the 4-1 player advantage versus the average Joes in the final?
Globo Jim.
Yeah,
losers.
It might be. Actually, I think the Leaf one is more pathetic Like I think,
yeah, but everything the Leafs do is more pathetic.
like it was
That's the
very
scale.
sad and pathetic. But the Globo Gym one definitely, because like you literally lost to a team named the Average Joes, and you had a 4-1 dodgeball advantage. So that's like way bigger of a choke job. But for the Leafs to choke and blow it in front of like healthcare workers in the middle of a global super pandemic at home is pretty incredible. That I remember that is what I think most blew my mind about that is like that. And I think that's the thing that a lot of people, even outside of Toronto, are starting to pick up on is like this incarnation of the Toronto Maple Leafs really knows how to not really find a way to care about the games in which they are playing. Like they're talking about, oh, Mitch Marner's coming back to town. It's just another game. Oh, it's the next gen game. There's a bunch of children. Does that motivate you? It's just another game. Oh, there are healthcare workers in the crowd watching you to close out this series. It's just another game. It's like, what Zen master Buddhist is paid $100 million a year by MLSE to consult you guys and teach you that feelings are bad and that like whatever, like that, it's ridiculous. And so to have healthcare workers in the room and blow it the way that they did, I think that's pretty embarrassing. But because you can't say that Globo Gym didn't want to win, they just blew it. They blew it.
I think you summed it up pretty well.
Yeah.
The Leafs are the kind of team that disappoints children, nurses during a pandemic, and the most diehard fans they have.
Thank you, healthcare workers. Now watch us lay an egg. Yeah, exactly.
I know you've been dealing with this crazy global pandemic, but you know what be sick?
People screaming at you.
Suck.
Yeah, people screaming at you, crying, and just the most depressing time of your life. And oh yeah, we banged pots and pans for you for a week though, so thanks for that. Great.
I mean, the Leafs certainly could have used a ventilator because they seem dead.
A CPAP machine, perhaps. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh boy. Anyway, on another note, Potter or Preston? I don't like that question. Honestly, I don't like it.
Well, I'm gonna go. I'll make it real easy for you, Will.
I don't want to.
I'm gonna go Preston because Potter is currently dead.
That's true.
Did
he is gone.
See him get killed.
I did see him get killed. Yep.
That's
out for the season or whatever it is, right?
Yep.
We can't have nice things around here, eh? Just nothing, eh?
No.
And Preston is also dead, so they're both dead.
They're both dead.
Right, they're both dead.
But Potter looked more dead.
Yeah, Potter definitely looked a little more deep fried. But I don't know. I mean, seriously, like they're different. I'd like them both to be on a line together. That would be sick.
That'd be fun.
That would be sick.
Those two and Brooks Rogowski.
Calgary Flames, you know what to do. Yeah, and Brooks Rogowski, exactly, centering them. Honestly, that probably would work. That would probably work out really, really well, honestly. Like all three of those guys together, that would actually be kind of fun to see. I don't know. I think they bring elite traits to different areas of the game. But data-wise, I believe they were quite similar, honestly. But Preston definitely generates a lot more offensive 5-on-5 than Potter did. But yeah, I don't know. I don't like that question. Nothing against the user, but it's too hard. The question is too difficult. It's too hard. Challengers is so good. Okay, we got one on my side. Yes, we got one on my side. That to me feels like I'm proud of that pull that I pulled out because I love that movie. Bench warmers. We got a bench warmers recommendation. Ooh. Is that the one with Napoleon Dynamite? Is that one? Yeah.
Yeah. That's where I learned to beef stew my brothers.
Is that where that came from?
I'm pretty sure that's where that came
from. Oh, okay. Well, now I know. I think I saw that movie like once when I was in high school when it was relatively new, but not the time since. And I gotta think there's other sports movies out there that are excellent to put on the Mount Rushmore.
Hardball, G-Baby. Have you ever seen it? Keanu Reeves? Keanu Reeves coaches an underprivileged, I think all black team, like
right. Yes, yeah,
team.
Yep.
And G-Baby gets shot at the end.
Right.
Not to spoil a movie that came out in like the 90s.
Yeah, if you haven't seen it yet, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm sorry for spoiling G Baby getting shot.
Yeah.
And honestly, I'm calling him G Baby because that's his actual name in the movie. He's a small child and he gets murdered.
Boy, there are a lot of good sports movies. I mean, like, I'm also a fan of like the sports dramas, like Bull Durham. That's a good one. Yeah. I like Jerry Maguire. That's a great movie.
Great movie.
Another Kevin Costner legend, Tin Cup. You ever see Tin Cup?
Yeah.
That's a great one too. I mean, there's just so many. I mean, like, I don't know. Everybody loves a good sports story. Slapshot.
Oh, that's a good one. On the flip side, though, worst sports movie, maybe Draft Day.
Ooh, well, I mean, for this community,
sucked.
Slapshot 2.
Yeah.
That was bad. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure there are people out there who in 2025 would throw Christie with Sydney Sweeney on there. Apparently that movie was a bit of a dud. I don't know. I'm trying to think of like bad sports movies.
Sorry, I'm reading the chat and someone called me Macron.
What? Why?
I don't even know when that comment was put in there, but sure. Why
sure.
not?
Emmanuel Macron. Oh, Basketball's another legendary sports movie.
That's a great movie.
Chat, if you have not seen Basketball, you gotta see Basketball. That movie rocks. Heard your mom's going out with Squeak. So good. Anywho, okay. Here's a movie, a sports movie that has definitely aged poorly. You ever see the movie Radio with Cuba Gooding Jr.?
Oh my goodness.
Where Cuba Gooding Jr. plays like oh my god. Oh boy. Yeah.
Child.
Might not age.
I thought that movie was fantastic.
I remember seeing the trailer for that movie being like, is there something wrong with Cuba Gooding Jr. now? Like, what's going on? And it's actually just the character he's playing, and you're like, oh. Now as an adult 22 years later, you're like,
I watched that movie semi-recently, like within the last 5 years.
How? Why? Did your kid like pull it off the shelf and be like, I want to watch this?
Crazy thing is, it was by myself. I was just like, oh, Radio. Okay. I haven't watched that movie in forever.
You watched the movie Radio by yourself.
I put it on at like 10 p.m. one night.
Oh, man.
And I just watched the whole movie. And Will, I'm not even gonna lie to you. There was a tear or two. That's a good movie.
God. I am also willing to admit, speaking of tears, I'm willing to admit, we have not finished it yet. We are actually legitimately scared to finish it. We have one episode left in Heated Rivalry. The end of the fifth episode, I was a baby. I could not believe the ending of that episode. I thought I did not know what I was getting into watching that show. Oh my god. So we have one more episode, and I don't want to watch it because not only do I want the show not to be over, but I'm terrified of the emotions that I'm going to feel watching that show because oh my god.
I would like to say one thing about that show. Not having watched it myself, I've watched the 75-part version on TikTok, which has been fun.
30 seconds at a time.
Yeah, it's been fantastic. Gary Bettman's a liar.
He is a dirty liar.
That show in
total liar. Yeah.
No God.
There's no goddamn way. Dirty liar.
6 a.m. one day, he's like, you know what I'm gonna do today?
That's like
binge Heated Rivalry.
Yeah, it's like saying, you know what I did this morning? I pulled out. I played Russian roulette with myself for 20 rounds, and I'm still standing. It's like, no, you didn't. You may have done it like once or twice, but no, you did not. Shut up. That's not possible. Like, come on, man. Like, if you're gonna lie, at least make it like a believable lie. You know?
Yeah, it
like,
could have been like, I watched it in 1 week.
It took me 3 days, 2 episodes a day. That's reasonable. Pushing the limit, I would say, based on my experience. I couldn't do two at a time. That show is intense on like literally every front. Maybe not like Uncut Gems, Marty Supreme, insane intense, but like really intense in a lot of ways. But it's awesome. Anyway, Carson Carroll's his son, or Brooke. I don't know what that means. I'm not gonna finish that sentence. Could Gustafson be higher on your list at the end of the year? What else do you hope to see? I mean, I think so. I mean, more just maturity in his game. Like, there's not much that I can point to right now where I'm like, this is a problem. Like, he's got a shot on him that you don't see too often. He is very skilled. I mean, the last game I saw of him, there wasn't really too much that I looked at and I went, oh no, like breaking the puck out or causing turnovers or whatever. Like, I mean, like tracking down fast wingers at the SHL level who are pressuring him along the boards on defensive entries. Guys got through him a little bit here and there, but like that is a very specific, albeit important area of the game, but he's in the toughest league that isn't the NHL, I would say. And so to be like a guy whose pivots aren't necessarily there yet to handle that well, that's a pretty low priority in terms of things to be concerned about. Like I said, I mean, he's pushing, where is he right now? Like he's in a tier that starts at 5 for me. Like if you wanted a Gustafson ahead of like a Villeneuve, you could convince me to do that very easily. A Verhoff, a Bjork, very easily convince me to do that. McKenna, you're really pushing it, I would say. Like, you know, McKenna, Preston, Lawrence, Stenberg are pretty locked in for me that high. But Gustafson is not far behind, honestly. Like that group as a whole is not far behind that other group. But I don't know. Is there any like what is it anything that is there anything that you wanted to throw out there? Because
there's no like major weakness in his game. And I think that's part of the problem with how high I can put him up is like I don't know where he can really get better. Can he be a little bit more dynamic? Maybe, sure, I get, but like he's a very well-rounded player. I really like him, but I have him in the same range that you were just talking about. Like if he goes 5, like I'm not going to be surprised at all. Like if he goes anywhere in that 5 to 10 range, like it wouldn't shock me. And I probably lean towards the first half of that 5 to 10 range. So we'll see.
I also will say, because I saw this name mentioned a show a little while ago, and I think that username is still here. But someone asked me about Mason Roy. He's playing in the OHL for Brampton. I'm assuming it's the Steelheads guy that's in here all the time. Yeah, I like him. I thought he was really interesting when I saw a bit of him with Brampton. I'm going to take a closer look at him, but he's very intriguing. I popped him on the list, and we'll see where it goes. Just wanted to throw that out there. Another question I had asked last Q&A, but was near the end. Why do NHL scouts historically get burned often in the queue? Some teams like Tampa seem to do a great job there, but many don't. Because Quebec isn't a particularly projectable league. Like, at least historically speaking. The physicality is not quite the same. The speed of the game is not quite the same. The talent differential on the same team could be humongous relative to other teams. Like, it's just really a very different animal to the NHL.
Yeah.
Really different.
I think for me, the teams that have the most success in the QMJHL are the guys that draft, or the teams that draft guys out of the queue that don't play QMJHL hockey. I look at a guy like Bill Zonin from last year and I go, that's a guy I won't be shocked to see success, because I think the way he played the game, the intensity, the forecheck, the constant like drive isn't necessarily that QMJHL float around east-west, like fancy hockey that you see so often. And when you draft guys that are at the top of the league, oftentimes you're drafting those guys that are able to just kind of toy around with defenders when they have time and space, which the QMJHL has tons of. So I think for teams like Tampa, teams like Pittsburgh drafting Zonin, you go and you get a guy that takes away the time and space because there aren't many in the queue.
Yeah, I would agree, basically. Okay. Have you seen much of Justin Carbonneau this year? Because I haven't really, and when I have, he looks the same.
I was just going to say, I think I've seen him in passing when watching other guys, and Justin Carbonneau looks like Justin Carbonneau from last year, and I know everyone hated me for where I had him ranked, but
65,000th, right?
Yeah, like it was 92 or whatever it was. No, it was higher, much higher than that. That's crazy. But no, like, I think he's very much the same kind of player. Like there's not been much like development or growth. He's a solid guy that can shoot the crap out of a puck. He is somewhat of a physical edge, but it's not like he's bowling guys over. But in terms of Q hockey, he's a beast. So Yeah, I think he's a perfectly fine player. I haven't seen much growth though, to be
Yeah,
honest.
me neither, from what I've seen. Uh, who are your watch list guys this year? I'll run down the list and then we'll move on. I don't think Tony, you don't do the same thing, right? You just
I kind of do, yeah.
okay. Well, mine's always 25 names. So the 25 names right now, Braden Thompson of the Youngstown Phantoms, who I love. Leo Sundqvist, Lucas Zajic of the national team, Alex Kostov of the Firebirds, Nikita Gromikov out in Russia, Dakota Rayo Mullen is a reentry, Alexander Grunin, Vladimir Karabayev of, I guess, the Quebec Remparts, but he's only played 7 games. Landon Ammerheim, Cooper Williams, Chad Legitsakos of Shawinigan, Sean Burrick in Penticton, Tobias Hunanen is in there. Jan Duran, a Swiss junior player who I've liked when he's played in the Liga or in National League. Julian Mays of the Calgary Hitmen, Vladimir Dravetsky, Brantford Bulldogs, Alan Sheklislamov on UFA, Mons Goodmanson in Foriestad, Andrew O'Neill with the Edmonton Oil Kings, Axel Brungo Larson in Frölunda, Matvey Kotkov, Noah Ta'amu in Edmonton, Bodie Leyland in Tri-City, and then you got my Malian king, Musa Hackert with the Red Bull Hockey Junior team, and Leonid Sokol in Yaroslavl. So there's 25 that I have at the tail end of the list. Braden Thompson is my Eric Polkamp of the year. That's my I like this guy and he doesn't score a ton, but I really like him guy, and I'm gonna hope that he grows and fills out because I love Braden Thompson going back to last year too. But I don't know, Tony, do you have anyone you throw out before we move on and close this out?
I'll throw a couple names that you didn't say. A lot of those are kind of similar.
Of course they are.
Marcus Ruck from the Medicine Hat Tigers. Lyndon Nitch from UMass.
Yep.
Blake Zielinski has really fallen off my list. He's not on my watch list right now, but he's trending there. Katalichki, Caden Harvey of the Spitfires I've liked at moments. Who else is here that you didn't mention? Tobias Tomic, Alex McLean. Like, there's a few players, but a lot of them are the guys you just named, and Max Isaacson, who I want to be a thing very, 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 very badly, but I don't think he's going to.
So I was going to ask you, actually, I forgot until now, but you're a Windsor guy. So
yep.
Have you seen much of JC Lemieux since moving to Sudbury? Because he is off to a ripping start there.
Yeah, it's not my favorite thing in the world because I really like JC Lemieux.
Yeah, it's too bad
he's sick.
Yeah,
he's still sick.
Yeah, he has worked his way
on
my
better.
list. Yep, he's on my list now. Not even a watch list guy anymore. I bumped him up after seeing him with Sudbury. Him with Adam Nemec. I watched him and I went, I think I might like him more than Adam Nemec, but I'll reserve that thought for later down the road. And also, I gotta say, he didn't do this in Windsor, right? But he's wearing number 66 in Sudbury, which with the last name Lemieux is
crazy.
Nectar to my proboscis. It is proboscis. The point is, I love that. And if I was an NHL scout, I just know that 32 other teams are going to look at that and go, who does he think he is? And I'm going to look at that and go, I know who he is. That rocks, man. Good for you. And he's scoring, so that's good.
In Windsor he didn't wear 66 because Liam Greentree wore 66.
Right, Liam Greentree wore it. Right.
He wore 22 or 24 or something like that. But no, JC Lemieux's pretty awesome, and I really want him to be a thing. So it'd be cool if he could continue just tearing it up. All
right, we'll do this last thing, and then we'll get out of here. The Olympic hockey jersey rankings. The Olympic break is coming up real quick. It's coming up fast. I pulled up a Google image search of them because the one that came up with all of them in one article, all of the lighting was terrible and I couldn't see them. I mean, for me, France is at the bottom. That is, I can't believe that they're wearing that. It really reminds me of that clip that went viral. I think it was a Miss Universe pageant where the woman from France just walked up to the microphone and just screamed France really loud and strangely. France! That's the one. France! You know? I mean, I am a big fan of the Czech look. The Czechs always seem to show up at the Olympics doing doing the nice looks. I don't mind the Canada jerseys. I think they're all right. Finland's are awesome. The
Finland's are good.
The Slovaks adding a mountain to their jersey is also pretty cool. That's a pretty nice little addition. I don't know.
I will say my biggest gripe with Canadian jerseys is that they stuck to 2 colors on every jersey. If they utilized like the red jersey with the black leaf, I don't hate it. I know a lot of people do. I don't hate it. Use some white to outline the leaf or something.
Yep.
And I think it's a much better jersey.
True.
Same thing with the black jersey where they use red to outline it. I don't know what you're doing putting a black leaf on a black jersey. Doesn't seem like a great idea to me, but sure.
I think that just because of the geopolitical situation we have found ourselves in, they should have just gone with Canada diagonally across the front so that the US with the USA diagonally across the front in the inevitable like bronze medal game they'll play in, because somehow like Germany and France will find their way to the gold medal because it's the Olympics. And it seems like NHL teams have no idea what to do with this slightly smaller rink size. So maybe we're going to see some upsets and France might work their way through. I don't know. But there are some nice ones. And I mean, the rest of them are all pretty classic, right? Like the Germans are just wearing the Germans.
Yeah.
The Swiss just wearing the Swiss ones. But I got to say, the Czechs and the Finns especially, I think are rocking some good ones.
Yeah, Slovakia's jersey is cool with the mountain. I just looked that up.
Yeah, it's pretty neat, eh?
Yeah, I mean, Finland always has great jerseys too.
Yeah, the Finns are sick. I mean, the Italian ones,
the Italian ones looks like the kind of jersey some kid that really wanted Italy to be in the Olympics designed on NHL like 22 or something.
No, this isn't what it's going to look like, is it? Oh my God, it is what it's going to look like.
Yeah, man, that's terrible.
Wow,
it's going to be about as good as the team.
I mean, okay, I'm seeing someone actually wearing one, a picture of someone actually wearing one. I don't hate it, but it could have been way better. Oh my God. It's cool, but yeah, that I don't think is going to age particularly well. I don't know. Weird.
It reminds me of the kind of like shirt a Formula One team would wear if it were like tighter and more form fitting.
Like something you would buy in their merch shop.
Yeah, and for that I respect it. The only problem is this is hockey and not Formula One.
Yeah. Like they need to put more green on this jersey. Like, I don't know. I don't really associate Italy with blue so much.
No.
You know? Like I always associated with, green. I don't know.
There's green part of me that wishes, as someone with the last name Ferrari, who doesn't really have any ties, to be completely honest. I would have loved, and AJ is going to hate me for this, so I'm glad he's not here.
True.
I would have loved if they got gimmicky, like make one sleeve green, white chest with the Italian flag, and then another sleeve red.
Yeah.
Like just get so stupid with it. They're not going to be good. Who cares?
Red, white, and green barber poles all the way down.
Oh yeah.
That's what I'm talking
but
about.
Sideways, like
like pinstripes.
Yeah.
I feel like that would get very confusing. I gotta say also, I saw the Flint Firebirds wear those referee jerseys.
Oh my God, I hate when
What in the hell is that? Stop it. Stop that right now.
It was like 4 or 5 years ago now. I think maybe that long, maybe longer. But some team out west or in the USHL was like, we're doing a referee appreciation night. And I was like, that is the silliest way to get calls on your side. and with that said, in that game, like the refs had to wear like a yellow jersey or something, because like it genuinely would have been too confusing.
Oh God, man. All right, last question, then we'll let you go. What's your over under for Italians scoring goals at the Olympics this year?
How many games are in the round robin? 4?
Yeah, I think it's 4.
3. Then 2.
Damn.
I have no faith.
They play 3 games in a preliminary round. So
2. 2 seems right.
Yeah. Do they play any consolation games after that? No. Yeah. No.
And no.
So these poor Italian guys are going to travel from all over the place, play 3 games, get blown out, And well, I mean, I guess that means you have the rest of the tournament or the rest of the Olympics to hang out and party.
Hang out, man.
It seems like there are many worse places to do it than the mountains of Italy.
Yeah.
My parents are actually there right now, and they're having a blast. So good for them. But anyway, we're gonna get out of here.
Before we get out, I
Oh.
do want to go to the chat one more time.
Oh, okay.
Could Brandon Boosie have stopped the Mongol invasion of Baghdad?
No. That's it. Just no. I don't think so. They did say, I did see a lot of my knowledge of the Mongol Empire comes from a 7-hour long podcast of how they grew and then collapsed.
Is it Hardcore History?
No, the Fall of Civilizations podcast. They did an episode on the Mongols, and it was like 7 hours long. And in one of it, like they had an account that they read from a guy who lived in, where was it? It might have been somewhere that is now Russia, something like that, you know, not Mongolia, somewhere else that they were conquering. And they explained what it was like when they were coming from over the horizon. And it was like a dust storm. Like they said that like apparently these people would have hundreds of thousands of men on horseback. And that's it. And just charging across Eurasia, just doing whatever. And they would kick up all this dust and stuff. And they were like, it was like, they used much more colorful language than I am, but it was something along the lines of like a deafening roar, like the world was coming to an end, of just horses clip-clopping up the road or up the plains with a cloud of dust like a kilometer high following them, because, you know, and that you knew you were cooked. I mean, that was it. So I don't know. I mean, Brandon Boosie's been solid, but I don't know about that solid. That's a tough wall to stop, I think. So as much as he's been having some fun, I don't think he can withhold the Mongol invasion. I don't know. I don't think so. Well, I guess that can be it. That's it. Because I'm sure we're both tired. Old Tony's been yawning, so we're gonna let him tuck himself into bed. But anyway, Tony, thank you so much for joining us. We'll have you on pretty soon. Any parting words for the audience before we let you get out of here? You know, anything you want to shill? No, you don't have a masterworks.
I'll say this. You can. Everyone at this point has been on the stream. I've been here enough times. Y'all know where to follow me, find my work, all that stuff. But with AJ not here, there are a few words that I would like to say. Leafs suck.
I don't think that would hurt his feelings so much anymore.
No, he wouldn't. He's pretty dejected.
He's pretty out of it. Yeah, I think he's pretty out of it. But
also, Buffalo Bills suck.
Ooh. Oh, maybe that's a good thing to finish. Who wins the Super Bowl? I don't know anything about football.
Ooh,
Seahawks or Seahawks Patriots. Nice rematch of 2015, I believe it is.
So I will break this down in my basic football knowledge. The Patriots have gotten really, really lucky throughout this season with one of the easiest strengths of schedule all time in the regular season, and then in the playoffs they faced a lot of really good defenses, and I shout out to RG3 for pointing out that they faced 3 top 5 defenses. With that said, they faced Justin Herbert, who has been one of the worst playoff quarterbacks in his career so far. Who was it that they played in the other round? I forget. And then they played Jarrett Stidham in the AFC Championship. And the other one was CJ Stroud, who's terrible. So they've played 3 of the worst playoff offenses. So congratulations to making it to the Super Bowl again, New England Patriots. Drake May is going to finish second place in the Super Bowl, just like he is in the MVP voting. And the Seattle Seahawks and Sam Darnold, New York Jets legend, is going to capture the Super Bowl for the Seattle Seahawks.
All right, fair enough. I'll bet my money on the Patriots then, and see what happens. But anyway, we'll let you go. Thanks again. This was a lot of fun. We'll have you back soon, and all the best, and keep on rocking in the free world and working away. And we'll see you around, man. Thank you. Okay, bye.